Squidward. Welcome to the night shift.
Hey everyone, Lauro Antonio here. Welcome to a new episode of The Night Shift. And with me today, and he is kind of briefly back from his media hiatus, and that is the one and only Callan McClurg, and he is known as Mac McClurg. So Callan, welcome briefly back. And how's it going?
Lauro, great to be here, man. Filling in on my on this program here tonight. Again, this is a very rare occurrence of this is happening because of some moving parts, but again, with at least there being a bit of a break in my schedule, I can be here at least for tonight and help you out. And glad to be a part of the program here tonight on this Thursday.
It is a great Thursday. Let's start things off with baseball as the Los Angeles Dodgers came off an 11-2 win over the Atlanta Braves tonight. And I'll tell you what, Callan, it was a fantastic game here for the Dodgers. They really needed this win so that they could try to end this in 7.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I know a lot of people have been saying their thoughts, I guess, because, I think that the Dodger pitching has been in a huge pickle over the past couple days because of, how, kind of mismanaged that the rotation had been with the whole ordeal of, with the whole ordeal of Max Scherzer starting in Game 2 and him going too deep in the game. Now his arm is sore. Julio Urias was not his usual self in Game 4. 3 home runs, the drop fly ball by Gavin Lux in center field. And certainly, if there's one ball club, though, I think, Lauro, that finds a way, despite the odds and deck being stacked against them, it is the Los Angeles Dodgers. And obviously, they win the game tonight. The bats come alive, though, but also I still, think, Lauro, that their pitching is still in a very big bind because can you really keep this entire bullpen day thing going for at least 2 more games, one more for sure, maybe 2 more games, both in Atlanta with a full ballpark down in Atlanta, Georgia? Can this momentum of riding the wave of bullpen arms still keep this, very high-octane Dodger team afloat? I personally, not because of me living in San Diego, but just seeing how things have been with the Dodgers and maybe Scherzer being in too long, Urias in Game 4, Joe Kelly, for what I just read within the last hour, ripped his bicep. He's done for the remainder of the season. That just adds another layer, I think, to this already tired and fatigued Dodger pitching staff. And I want to, obviously, maybe see them go to Game 7. But is the rotation, is the bullpen going to be able to carry this piano on their back for at least one more game, maybe into Game 7? I truly don't think that they're going to. Not because, like I've said about me living in San Diego, being a Padre fan, but again, being a part of teams, though, Lauro, in my time playing baseball, about do we have enough stamina left in the tank to get through another game? There were plenty of times we would play, double headers are one thing, Lauro, but playing 3 games in one day to win the championship in a tournament is hard to do enough already because you need to have, either pitch counts on players, all those things, though. But certainly with how, the opening has worked, though. But Scherzer kind of up in the air right now. Urias, not his best in Game 4. Joe Kelly's injury now adds another, I think, layer on top of this already thin Dodger rotation and bullpen. But for Atlanta, I think, though, as well, Lauro, it's one of those, oh my goodness, here we go again. Here you have a 3-1 lead last season and blow it incrementally. You lose, the next game, you lose the next game, you go to Game 7, you have the lead, and then you blow it with Cody Bellinger hitting that game-winning home run late in the game. But I think, though, with Atlanta this season, it might be a little bit different, though I do believe it may be panic mode for Braves fans because, you're right back. It's deja vu again in the same exact spot you were in just last year. You're literally once again, with that 3-1 lead. Now you've lost a game. You get blown out in that game nonetheless, but now you're thinking to yourself, this cannot possibly happen again, especially when you had Max Fried pitching today, though. But I do think that where things stand right now, Lauro, the Braves, with them not misusing their rotation right now, they still get my vote of confidence, but also going back home to Atlanta into that full ballpark down there at Truist Park is what I think gives them the edge, though. But as we have seen, though, Loro, including last season, the Dodgers just find a way. They can have all their starting pitchers out. They would still find a way, like tonight, to win a ball game in that kind of fashion as they did today, relying on the long ball and the extra base hits and working the counts. And I know that Max Muncy has been not a factor because of that very, scary injury he suffered the final week of the regular season. But then Chris Taylor gets going again with his 3-homer game today. Justin Turner, yeah, he's out. But again, the Dodgers just have so much depth, though, that in a way it almost makes up for their pitching. But again, Loro, I really don't have confidence in the Dodgers to keep this momentum going because your bullpen's already taxed enough, though. You're probably going to have to rely on them, though, to carry that piano for at least one more game. Like I said, though, maybe 2 more games. And if you get over this, CS hurdle, do you have enough to maybe beat Houston or beat Boston in the pitching department? I seriously don't see it happening, sadly.
Well, you got Max Scherzer on the mound on Saturday, and then you got Walker Buehler on Sunday. So basically, with the Dodgers bullpen being taxed today, I feel like that Max Scherzer and Walker Buehler can give the Dodgers length if needed.
I do. Well, obviously, I think that they both can give them length, though. But then I think you also have to kind of think, though, what happens just in fact, though, like someone, Scherzer or Buehler, kind of has a Urias style start where they get, kind of in a way hit early, early runs, maybe a homer's hit early in the game. And you really can't stop that avalanche in the first, 1 to 3 innings, though. And also, I still just think, though, that in a way that maybe minus Scherzer and Buehler, that maybe with these openers and these bullpen games, again, it just doesn't give me confidence. So I think just mainly Loro, because I've seen the Padres do it so much over the past couple of years, though, that the Rays mainly made this a big thing, though, that I just don't have faith and confidence, especially, though, my man, in the postseason. I just don't have faith and confidence in any team's bullpen to try to go out there in a 7-game series and, pitch, mainly 3, 4, 5 games mainly, but also work from the get-go, like Knebel did earlier in the series and Brusdar Gratterall in Game 5 versus San Francisco. I mean, it may work in a regular season, Loro, but I just don't really rely, or I would not want to rely on the bullpen to really carry this load for me at this stage of the season right now, literally a round away from the World Series.
And then we got some comments here. So Isaiah Leong is tuning in. He says, "Oh my God, Callan is back. Stop the presses and pop the champagne." And do you have any thoughts on that?
It's a one-time ordeal, so be happy I'm here for the time being.
All right, so let's talk about the ALCS. So the Astros are up 3-2 in this series, but if you look at it, folks, the Houston Astros starting pitching is a concern without Lance McCullers Jr. Zach Greinke should have stayed in the rotation, but they got Luis Garcia on the mound tomorrow against Nathan Eovaldi in Game 6. So Nathan Eovaldi, what he's got to do tomorrow is got to pitch his tail off to force a Game 7 on Saturday in Houston.
Loro, I mean, much like the Dodgers, here's Houston, a team who I think we have criticized not because of the whole thing from 2017, but I think who has been criticized heavily because they just did not really add pieces to their rotation. And yeah, Lance McCullers Jr. is a great guy, a great pitcher, but then, that their rotation was, I think, mainly their biggest red flag during the course of the season, during the regular season and even now. And then with McCullers going down, that is a huge blow to that rotation. But I do think, though, that Dusty Baker, though I think he gets a terrible rap, though, for how he finds a way to implode in the postseason. We saw that with the Cubs in 2003, the Giants in 2002, the Reds, the Nationals, you name it. But I think that right now, though, that not the pitching, Loro, their offense has been what has kept them afloat. Now, yeah, I know there's new accusations out there from Nick Tepera from round one with the White Sox about them again cheating, and that there's been some reports of them maybe whistling now to relay signs. I know it's going to limit them forever, but stop the presses. Let's put a pause on that and just admire, though, what this team has done when they have been down and out and counted out since 2017. It's been all about the cheating scandal and that, you're not going to get back there. They prove every single critic, including Isaiah Leung, wrong every single season, getting to the top of the AL West mountaintop, getting deep into the postseason, ALCS World Series, whether it is with tomfoolery or, whether it is with their tomfoolery antics in 2017. But Laurel, the offense, I think, though, has come alive for the Astros at the best possible time. Where much like the Dodgers, I don't think the Red Sox have enough pitching left, though. Eovaldi can be a one-time stopper. But Game 7, do you trust Chris Sale after his ERA has ballooned well above, I believe, 14 or 15 throughout the postseason? Who really out there for Boston, minus Eovaldi, is going to be that, Eduardo Rodriguez maybe could be that guy. But Eovaldi can be great for Game 6, when you have to win to, survive to play Game 7. After Game 6, though, my confidence in Boston, Sally, has gone down the tubes very, very quickly, despite their offense, but their pitching is what I think has been their kryptonite so far, mainly in these last couple of games at home.
It sure has. I mean, we could see a Dodgers-Astros World Series or Dodgers-Red Sox. We'll just have to wait and see. But now on to some teams that don't have managers right now. But, Callan, I know that your Padres are looking for a manager. One of the choices is Ron Washington or Mike Schilt. So, Callan, do you think that the San Diego Padres should take a look at one of those two names that I mentioned?
Absolutely. Lauro, I said this actually on Coast to Coast. I've been able to kind of pop in over there and hang out with Adam and Big B and the fellows over at C2C. And Adam asked me the same question, what really is the Padre blueprint? And I know, Lauro, that the obvious answer here in San Diego for everybody here is Bruce Bochy. Though I love and admire Boch for what he did here in San Diego from 95 till 2007, 2006 mainly, I think he's content with staying with the Giants with what he's doing in the front office. But also, I don't think his health, though, would really, I think, let him get back on the top step, though. My only, gripe about this search, though, Lauro, and my biggest thing that I put my foot down on, A.J. Preller and the Padres cannot afford, for the third time under his, watch, they cannot hire a first-year manager. I've heard a lot of names thrown in the blender. Schilt obviously raises some eyebrows. Obviously, with him, Ron Washington would be great with his time with the Rangers, and it seems like that A.J. Preller only hires people from Texas because of his past with the Rangers organization. But I've even heard Bob Nightingale throw out John Gibbons, John Farrell, Brad Ausmus got thrown out. And even today, Lauro, I even heard a very interesting wild card one thrown out by the Padre radio station in the afternoon time slot. I even heard Dave Roberts, if he gets fired from the Dodgers, if they don't go deep in this postseason, that there's some sources who are still reporting, though the Dodgers won it all last season, there are some folks, though, within LA media who still believe that if Roberts does not win the World title this year, they could see him being fired. And would the Padres offer him the invite? I don't believe Dave Roberts takes it because I think he feels the bridge was burned. When they fired Bud Black and brought in Pat Murphy for a bit, though, and here Dave Roberts was a part of that coaching staff when they got Kemp and Upton and Myers and Norris and Middlebrooks and those guys in 2015. Dave Roberts never got an invite. Didn't get a phone call, an email, nothing. Then, of course, when the Dodgers, moved on from Mattingly and they hired Roberts, that's more so why I think that Dave Roberts would not come to San Diego if he was ever fired from the Dodgers, though I don't see it happening. Though I know, of course, it's life and death, title or bust up in the City of Angels. But simple and easy, Lauro, it has to be a manager who has experience, who can go into that clubhouse, look those guys in the eye and say, look, and listen, I'm in charge here. No crap is going to fly, with me. There's going to be, no antics, no shouting matches. And if you have a problem, you take it up with me. I'm not going to be this, this yes man for the GM. and have my coaching staff handle it. And I'm going to be very upfront, accountable, and transparent with you. So it has to be someone I truly believe who has been there. A Washington, John Gibbons, John Farrell, Mike Schilt, even a Dave Roberts. It has to be somebody out there, Loro, who already has been a part of, who has already been a manager at some point in their career. Not if, I think this truly, if they hire a first-year manager, I would not be one bit surprised if AJ Preller is handed his pink slip after the season. Though, like I've said, though, as well, though, Loro, in other circles, though, my biggest concern, though it may sound ludicrous to you folks out there, my only concern, though, is that if AJ Preller is, in fact, released from his duties and a new GM comes in place, this becomes the Padres of the 90s 2.0, where they literally, on that team back in the 90s in the early days, they had Gary Sheffield and Fred McGriff on their roster. And a year removed from Sheffield winning a batting title, he's dealt away to Florida. McGriff is dealt to Atlanta, and they basically sold off all the high-priced players. That is my only legitimate concern with, in fact, if AJ Preller is relieved of his duties, because someone could come in here to San Diego and say, oh, wait, it's San Diego, small market city. Sorry, Machado's gone. Hosmer's gone. Myers is gone. Sorry, folks, Tatis Jr. is gone. Enjoy watching the prospects for 10 more years. That's my only concern, Loro, about if, in fact, that AJ Preller was ever let go from being the Padre GM, is that someone's going to come in here and break this, great thing, back down to square one like it's been so many times in Padre history.
Well, if you talk about it here, I just think that what I meant to say is that I don't think the Dodgers will fire Dave Roberts.
I don't think so either. They'd be stupid.
What were you saying again?
I said I don't think so either. I think they'd be stupid if they did that.
Yeah, because he just came off. Even if the Dodgers get eliminated, if they lose to the Braves, then I don't expect the Dodgers to fire Dave Roberts, because he won them the title last year, and it's because this team is hurt.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of factors behind that, but like I said, though, Loro, patience I think runs thin though, in markets like LA. If you're not, number one overall, if you're not bringing home the title, if we're not having if we're not having ring night and dropping, if we're not raising banners on opening night, someone's got to go. That's just kind of, the mindset of a lot of these fans, though, in a lot of these markets, Lower. I think very well, though, if you're not winning the title, no one cares about how great your regular season was, especially in a market like Los Angeles.
Absolutely. But now I want to get to this next Padres managerial candidate. What about Buck Showalter? He is a guy that knows how to lead teams to the playoffs, and he does have that capability to bring teams to a World Series with his past experience. And he might have a relationship with AJ Preller.
I would not mind Showalter. I do believe that, if memory serves me correct, that Buck was the manager when Machado and Adam Jones and the Orioles, I think, went to the playoffs in 2012, 2013, and led that, that group of guys, who were all young and upcoming guys like Machado and Adam Jones and, Delman Young and that big hit against the Tigers. I wouldn't mind Showalter. I know he had some time in the NL West with the Diamondbacks in their inaugural year in '98. But certainly, I think that Buck is a proven manager. Yeah, he may not have, the rings to show for it, but he knows very well what to do. And also, I think, Laura, the breaking point, though, here, though, maybe, I think Isaiah and I talked about this on Coast to Coast about a couple days ago, is the rift between the field manager and the GM, because it boils down to the analytics. I think that's what, of course, is killing the game right now in baseball. But I think it just seems like, though, that in a way, guys like Showalter, even Bochy, even Schilt, I don't know, though, if a lot of these GMs, though, would really want to hire a quote-unquote old-school manager, because they don't want to rely on the numbers or rely on the analytics, and they don't want to, just follow those sort of basic things, though. And I know it's kind of wrecking the game, though. But that's like maybe one minor holdback, though, I think, on, someone getting a Showalter or a Jeff Bannister or any established name, those that they may think, oh, it's a, like, oh, Washington. Oh, no way. He's not an analytical guy. No, we got to bring in someone who will trust the process with the numbers.
Absolutely. Back to our comment section. Christy Wilson says, I lost faith in the Red Sox and they're my team. And Isaiah chimes in and says he wants Jeff Bannister as the Padres' new manager. Please, please, please get that man back in the league. He is so fiery with his ejections. They're entertaining as heck. Come on, Padres. I will move down to Paradise Cove in San Diego if you all do that. You want
Stay
anything to
away
say
from
about
my hometown, sir. That's all I ask. Please and thank you.
All right, and then Brandon Herrera says, "What's up, night shift?" And Adam Barber says, "What's up, my man?" And then Ishmael Lancaster says, "Callan is back! Hooray!" So Sports Lounge is back. Do you have anything to allude to that?
Not quite. We are still looking at our calendars and seeing, calendars. Get it? Calendars. Anybody? Somebody? Nobody? We're going to see, Ishmael. We're trying our best to line things up, but I know there's a couple of Tuesdays I'll be working, so right now it's still a little bit up in the air, but trust me, we're coming back very soon. Don't worry.
All right, so talk about the Cardinals. So they fired Mike Schilt. Do you think that the Cardinals should hire Padres associate manager Skip Schumacher? Is he their leading candidate, or is it Oliver Marmol?
You know, Schumacher, I think, would be pretty. I think he's been groomed here in San Diego for a bit to kind of become that manager. I think he's going to make a great manager, believe me. And I certainly think, though, with a guy who has history, who has a past history with St. Louis, I think this could work out, because I think that Skip is kind of, in a way, he's borderline old school. He's borderline new school. I know he was pretty big on always having a lineup card with Jace Tingler last season in the Padre dugout. So I would definitely give Schumacher consideration, especially with him being groomed here in San Diego as the associate manager. This is basketball having an associate head coach. So I think as he's gotten his feet wet, I think he's going to be a great manager one day. And certainly, I would not be against him getting a job in St. Louis, especially when he has prior history with that organization.
Absolutely, meaning that it could be the last dance for Adam Wainwright, who could retire with Yadier Molina. And don't be shocked if Albert Pujols would want to go back to St. Louis to play with Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright one more time.
I mean, all three of those guys are first ballot guys in my mind, so I think it's going to be great if that happens.
And then the Mets. We talked about Buck Showalter potentially managing the Padres. Billy Beane has already withdrew his name from consideration from president of baseball operations for the Mets. He's going to remain in Oakland. The Oakland A's are just doing that same thing over and over again with this Moneyball metrics, spending cheap money on players and not spending the big bucks. And it's not working these days, though.
No, it's not. And I think that the Mets, them and San Diego both were supposed to be, I think like not really powerhouses, but we're supposed to at least be competitive this year. But I think, though, the Mets, they have too many injury problems, and then all the nonsense last season of Lindor and McNeil having a scuffle, the whole thumbs down thing, like I talked about pretty heavily on the Sports Lounge back in August. So many distractions with that organization. Steve Cohn tweeting out that his ball club sucks hitting with guys in scoring position. Like, dude, come on, be better than that, please. You're the owner of this organization, for heaven's sakes. And then, Lindor doesn't live up to the hype at the start of the season. Him and McNeil, like I said, had their little brouhaha. Mickey Callaway, Jared Porter, both fired from the organization because of sexual harassment allegations at the time. Just there's too many things, that are distracting that team, though. And certainly, Loro, it may not be a very popular bet here. The Mets have got to get Carlos Beltran back. He served his time for what he did in Houston and what he did, elsewhere with Boston or whatnot. He was the guy that I think could have at least geared them back in the right direction, though. But much like the Padres, I think, the Mets, I think, they could probably get Beltran. But like the Padres, they need somebody in there who has a voice, who's not going to let, Lindor and McNeil go at each other for some stupid reason. Or they're going to have, guys, boo the fans with what they did with the thumbs down thing last season. And who's not going to let stuff like what derailed the Padres last season, become distractions. Tune out the noise, like I usually say.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Mets should go with a veteran manager just so that they can help out like Jacob deGrom. I think Jacob deGrom's going to come back stronger. I think Noah Syndergaard's going to re-sign with the Mets. But we can allude to that when after I talk about this next Yankees. Talk about how you feel about the Yankees keeping Aaron Boone and extending him. I thought that was just ridiculous, and that they should have just moved on from him, because Aaron Boone is not really the right person to lead the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of feeling that way, Sally, but more so, it's a lot of things out of his control. The Yankees, in my mind, they're in a way like a reflection of the Phillies. They spend all this money on Judge and all this money on Stanton, and there's no return on a dollar. But also, if those two guys get hurt, they're going to be, scuffling for the entire season. And certainly this year, LeMahieu and, Aaron Hicks getting hurt, Stanton being hurt, Judge getting hurt. That's more so what I think has killed the Yankees, Loro, over the past, I'd say, 4 to 6 years, if not longer. This team just gets, bit by the injury bug, and the bite just keeps growing and growing and growing over the entire season's length. That's why I think they've been ousted so much in the first round or in the wild card game, or they lose in the ALCS, though, because all their big guns are hurt. And then if they do in fact get in there, they're well out of sync. They've had so much time off rehabbing injuries or nursing injuries. So, with the Yankees and Aaron Boone, though, I think that Aaron Boone, though, is a great manager. I do believe, though, that he needs to get out of there, though I thought it should have happened before he got that contract extension, excuse me. But certainly, I think he's a great manager. I think he'd be a lot better if he wasn't in a, with the franchise who is always ravaged every year, Loro, by injury. Every single season. It just seems like it happens to the Yankees every year.
It sure does. I mean, the Yankees they have a really, really good team on paper. They're going to be in the thick of things in the AL East next year. But you got to watch out for the Rays. You got to watch out for the Blue Jays. The Red Sox are right there. But my choice but I just felt like that the Yankees, we'll see how it goes with Aaron Boone as the Yankees manager. But now on to some NFL. So Thursday Night Football, the Denver Broncos lost to the Cleveland Browns. So Case Keenum making his first start as a Cleveland Brown. But however, the Cleveland Browns were able to hold on 17-14. I thought it should have been a blowout here.
I give props to Case Keenum, Loro, and I give props to any backup quarterback who comes into what feels like a lose-lose situation, as Case Keenum did again. Baker Mayfield done with, I think he's out for a bit because he tore the labrum in his left shoulder. And especially, I think, with a backup quarterback, Loro, I think your confidence kind of dwells or kind of sinks a bit. It's like, oh, we don't have a regular starting quarterback in there. How good's the backup going to be? But also, much like the Yankees, Loro, with how beat up, chewed up, and spit out that the Browns have been over the past couple of games. Again, Mayfield getting hurt. OBJ was questionable. They did get Myles Garrett back today before the game started, in that they just had so many big injuries as the week had gone on, though. And that Case Keenum comes in, he has a great game for Cleveland again, 21 of 33, 199 yards, a TD pass, no interceptions. And I think really did a good job of obviously taking care of the ball in this game, but that he did this mainly without the entire regular core being there for the Browns today. And also, Denver, they are a very, I wouldn't say weird team right now, but I think though that Teddy Bridgewater has been figured out already in this, 4, 5, 6 games into the season, 7 games into the season, though. And that Denver, I think they're also finding out they're in a very, very much more competitive division this year. KC's fallen off a little bit this season with their defensive woes, and Mahomes has been kind of figured out. The Raiders having their issues with John Gruden being fired and some of the off-the-field distractions. The Chargers somehow, some way are 4-2 and kind of up there right now. And then Denver, right now they're, in the middle of things right now, but certainly I think that the Broncos may have been a bit blindsided by how good this division actually is, though, and certainly more so, I give props to Case Keenum for coming into basically a lose-lose situation and delivering a win for the Browns today.
It sure is. I mean, want to welcome Big B, Brandon, to the house. Welcome, Brandon. How are you doing?
Doing good. So you guys are on. No Isaiah, so I thought I'd jump on and listen to some good sport takes tonight.
All
Glad
right,
to hear, man. Thanks for being here.
All right, so we'll talk about other games in the NFL. We'll talk about Jets and Patriots. So the Patriots are due for a home win, but for the Jets, they're 1-4. Callan, what are your what are your thoughts on the Patriots right now? And do you think that the Patriots are due for a home win?
Oh, they're easily due for a home victory. But right now, though, I think that Mac Jones is slowly, sadly, getting a blessing by fire. And I feel, and usually, I think the game plan in the NFL or even college football for that matter is to, let that freshman, let that rookie get the time on the bench, let the more established veteran, as the Bears tried to do with Dalton before he got hurt week one. They had to throw Justin Fields into the fray in week two, I should say, against the Bengals. Not week one, week two, though, against Cincinnati. And that you would hope, though, that you would be able to at least let them learn the playbook and then maybe bring them in a blowout situation if they're up by 20 or down by 20 late in the game and just get them some snaps, though. But that Mac Jones, I think that was kind of in a way been thrown into the lion's den right now because, again, they let Cam Newton go earlier in the season because of his COVID issues and protocol breaches and things of that nature. And that he's sadly right now, Loro and Brandon, he's learning on the fly, trying to be a Delta pilot, trying not to crash on his maiden flight out of the airport. And that right now it's not been great so far. But then again, though, the Jets are in the same exact spot, though. They're both rolling out rookie quarterbacks right now with Zach Wilson and Mac Jones, though. And that at this rate, though, obviously something's going to give, though. But eventually, the Pats are going to be fine, though. I think that Belichick has got to be, probably one of the best at, maybe at developing a quarterback. But at the same time, though, it's been rough, though, kind of seeing, though, how the Pats have really fallen from grace post Tom Brady's exit out of New England.
And then, Brandon, what is your takes on the Patriots and Jets game? You think that's probably going to be an easy win for the Patriots?
It should be an easy win as the Jets. I mean, we could probably get a schoolyard team together to probably beat the Jets. But I like what Colin said. I mean, these rookie quarterbacks, some of them need to learn behind a veteran quarterback, and they're not getting that chance because everybody's in win now mode. They don't want to be wrong on who they pick, so they throw these rookie quarterbacks in, and after a few years, they find out it's not working, so they move on. Look at Donald in the Jets. Now he's in Carolina doing decent, but I mean, Mac Jones will probably be good. Like Colin said, Belichick has, a way to build quarterbacks. I mean, he did it with Brady. He did it. I mean, Jimmy G there for, a half a year, got some wins. So, I wouldn't worry if I'm a Patriots fan, but, we'll see. It might be a close game, but I still think the Patriots will pull it out.
And even Matt Castle became an established quarterback under Brady's team too after Brady ripped his ACL years ago.
Yep, exactly.
Also, folks, we got a question. We got a comment from Ishmael Lancaster, and he also wants Callan's thoughts on the Bears. Do you want to allude to what Ishmael said?
Ishmael with the Bears across the board, man, no surprise they lose to Green Bay. I had, basically, Ishmael, it's like this. I have the Bears losing to Green Bay every year, whether it's preseason, the regular season, or even the playoffs. And the fact that Aaron Rodgers, and I loved it. I thought it was great that he trolled the fans and said, I still own you. And then you had Tom Brady say, he must have become a shareholder because he owns the Bears so well. But, obviously, it's sadly, the same old story again, Ishmael, terrible coaching, not a lot of weapons on offense this year. The defense has been, hung out to dry. I do want to give Justin Fields, though, the benefit of the doubt, though, because he's come in for Andy Dalton, who, again, for the second straight year has been injured, because of the concussion he had last year with the Cowboys. And this year, I think his knee, I think he hurt his knee in the second game of the year versus the Bengals. But certainly there's been some signs of promise with Justin Fields. I think he's going to be great, though. But again, if it wasn't for the fact of Dalton getting hurt, I don't think he would have been thrown into the fire as quickly as it has been with Mac Jones, Zach Wilson. But right now, though, not having a lot of the, weapons on offense, Darnell Mooney getting hurt last week or leading up to the game last week with Green Bay. The defense has been out there for a while. And again, not really adding to the roster and stuff like that, losing a lot of your big guns from last year. Again, I think they lost, they did lose Cordero Patterson last season. They did lose Charles Leno Jr., I think, last, over the offseason. Like 4 or 5 of their big name guys, they left, with free agency. And certainly there's not really a lot to pick off the scrap heap for Chicago. And again, like I said, though, I always count on the Bears losing to Green Bay every season. And with them going to Tampa, I think it's going to be an absolute bloodbath on Sunday at Raymond James Stadium. I think they're like a 12.5-point dog against Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. In spurts, they've been great. But right now, it's still, Ishmael, the negatives outweighs the positives right now with Chicago. And right now, it's still, in my mind, goes at the feet right now of both Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace.
All right. So, folks, when it comes to Week 7, we talked after Thursday Night Football. Let's talk about one early game that is going to let's keep our eyes out on. It's the Chiefs and the Titans. I think the Chiefs are getting their season back on track, though, guys. So, Kellen, can you allude to what you think you want to see from the Chiefs for them to get this win in Tennessee?
I want to see their defense actually show up to the building for once. I mean, my goodness gracious. I know it's been kind of like the knock on them over the past several years has been that defensive play. And I think this year it's taken a huge nosedive over the past, several, at least the past 2 weeks, though. Again, they had that very dreadful loss to Buffalo, at home about, last week or pretty recently. And sadly, Pat Mahomes has been figured out by a lot of these defenses. Yeah, he can still do the behind the back passes and all the shovel passes and sidearm passes or Norlick passes. But now he's being figured out, though, and now he really can't go back to that bag of tricks, though. But I want to see this KC defense actually show up to the building and make it to Nashville International Airport in one piece at BNA when they land there to play this game in Tennessee against the Titans. Because certainly you need your A game on defense to stop the king from running all over you. As we have seen Derrick Henry, guys, in the past, how he just runs over defenses. And obviously, I think Josh Norman's soul has been sucked out of him still from that stiff arm from last season with what happened there with the Bills and Titans. But certainly, if the Chiefs defense does not contain Derrick Henry, they're in for a long night at the office. So I like the Titans to win this ball game, especially if the same Chiefs defense shows up again and they're not 100% there at this game.
And Brandon, what do you expect from both the Chiefs and Titans?
I expect it to be a shootout because, like Colin said, if the defense doesn't show up for Kansas City, Henry's just going to run all over them. And right now, Cleveland, Kansas City doesn't have an answer for anybody right now on defense. Their offense has to put up like 60 points for them to even have a chance to win. And, Tennessee, they got some average weapons outside of Henry, and, they can move the ball through the air a little bit, but, you got to stop the big guy from getting, 140 yards and a couple touchdowns, I think, to have a chance to win. So he gets anywhere near 140, 150 yards, you might as well just close up shop because you ain't going to beat them.
Yeah, so also we want to get to these headlines here is that the Miami Dolphins are facing a little bit of trade rumors because you got Tua Tagovailoa mentioned in trade rumors. I don't believe in trade rumors. Deshaun Watson could be a Miami Dolphin. I don't think there will be any movement at the trade deadline here. The Dolphins are taking on the Falcons. The Dolphins are 1-5. As them and the Falcons are both in the bottom 5 in scoring defense this season. We want to address that because I really think that Tua Tagovailoa can be the Dolphins franchise quarterback. Kellen, I know you have that face at me. Do you think that Tua Tagovailoa is the man in Miami?
What? That's my reaction to trade rumors with a second or third year quarterback. Seriously. I don't get this, and I don't get this at all with the Dolphins, and I'm not the biggest NFL or football fan, but I don't see why an organization wants to give up on a young player this early in their career because he's had injury problems, guys. The hip issue at Alabama, the rib injury earlier this season, and that he showed flashes of promise last season. But if we're really going to be going down this path, though, of giving up on these young kids, 1 year, 2 years, anything less than 4 years in, when they haven't really fully gotten a grasp, I think, on playing pro, playing pro ball, then we have an issue with front offices of gambling on these players and not getting the return on their dollar. I don't buy this at all with the Dolphins, one iota, considering trading Tua Tagovailoa. If you're so quick to get rid of him, why'd you draft him in the first place? Why did you do this? I know it was like the hot commodity, hot flashy quarterback, but if you don't let this kid go through the ups and downs of being a pro, of the injuries and the losing seasons and the not making the playoffs, I think we have to remember though as well, though, guys, a lot of these, like Trevor Lawrence, for example, never lost a game in his career till he gets to the NFL. If we're not going to let these guys grow and mature and have to endure the losing seasons, the injury setbacks, the done for the year injuries, and the adversity that comes with the sports world, then don't draft them. Let them, move on to some other organization when they're not a problem. And this, I think, though, could be could set the Dolphins back a bit, though it may sound preposterous out there. But if you're going to, take this gamble and draft this player with your full investment in them for at least that first year, this isn't like adopting a pet where you can go and return them back to the shelter. You have to keep this guy around for at least 2, 3, 4 years and let them go through these swings of having to battle the adversity. That's what makes the sports world great, is you have to overcome obstacles in your career to get to where you're at and get to the top of the mountain. Everything playing sports or in the sports world is not, roses and Dove chocolates in the morning, and the coffee pot's not always on at 2:00 in the morning. So it is what it is right now. But Loro and B, I don't buy these rumors one bit from the Dolphins right now. Very perplexing.
It's kind of odd. I don't expect Tua Tagovailoa to get traded. He's going to be the franchise quarterback for the Dolphins. Give it time. He played well last week. I expect him to play well against that Falcons defense. So, Big B, do you see a future in Tua with Miami?
I actually think, yes, I kind of do, but I think Miami screwed it up by letting Fitzpatrick walk. I think they had a good one. I think they had a good 1-2 combination where, Fitz started off the season, then you switched to Tua, but then you also brought Fitz in late in the game to kind of bring him back, and kind of close out the game. So I think they had a good thing going with that 1-2 punch. The trade rumors, until the trade happens, I don't even listen to them because, this is the 100th trade rumor we heard of Watson being a part of. I did see an analyst say that the Dolphins should make this move and bring Watson in and move on from Tua, but like Colin said, it's only his second year in the league. He's going to have ups and downs. Give him 3-4 years, see where it's going to be at. But I was all for them. I should say I was shocked when they let Fitzpatrick go because I thought they had a great 1-2 combination in the works there, letting the young guy learn the playbook and play, and then kind of flip flop back and forth.
And also, Loro, I want to butt in real quick and just say this as well. I don't see any organization wanting Deshaun Watson because I don't think they want to deal with the baggage that comes with the player right now. With another very sensitive talking point, like we had talked about with the John Gruden firing, with that baggage. I don't think any team right now wants to touch any of that baggage with Deshaun Watson at this stage of a season. Maybe next offseason, but not certainly in the middle of the year, though, because you don't know what kind of a revolt could happen in that locker room if, in fact, a move like this
or I want to add here, maybe it might be because of that case that Deshaun Watson is still in.
And that's what I'm referring to. Is I don't think you want to have that that distraction or have that baggage that comes with Deshaun Watson going to your organization. That's just, I think, another reason why I don't think that this rumor should be taken for should be valid at all whatsoever.
Absolutely. But now let's talk about former Ram and former Lion going head to head. Callan, what is your thoughts on when the Rams play the Lions and Jared Goff going up against his whole team? What do you want to say about that?
First of all, is the game in LA or is it in Detroit?
It's in LA.
It's in LA.
So it is at SoFi. Okay. I, for one, do see that there'll be like some sort of like, pregame. Thank you, Jared, for taking us to the Super Bowl and losing to New England. In a way, though, give these, give, this guy a chance to come back to the Rams and, say, hey, thanks, stuff like that. And then you go on and play the game. But the Lions, though, man, they just cannot get out of their own way, And I think, though, guys, seeing Dan Campbell's post-game uh, interview when they lost to B's Vikings at the final gun with that field goal was like, here this guy, fellas, came into this organization and I think gave a speech that would probably want to make you run through a brick wall, where he said, we're going to eat the opposing team's kneecaps. We're going to come back for more and do it again. That just, to fire up an organization, guys, who we know has been sadly a doormat. I think since 1957, when I think was like their last like decent season or like last notable year that they had, or quite some time where it's been for Detroit, maybe even with Barry Sanders and those guys. But that it's just like the Lions just can't get out of their own way, though. But yet, though, and now you have Stafford playing his former team and Goff playing his former team. But I really expect the Rams to probably, in a way, just, hang a huge number, sadly, on the Lions. Because Detroit right now, they're in shambles, sadly. They've come close, like I said, about them nearly beating the Vikings. And that with Matthew Stafford and Loro and Brandon, you may know very well, I'm a big fan of change of scenery. If there's a guy who's just not getting it done in a market, I always say that change of scenery, 9 times out of 10, can get a player back on track. And so far with Matt Stafford, I think his career has been revitalized in LA right now under the offense that he's been playing with Sean McVay, who, again, he's like 40+-0 if they're leading at halftime. And again, there's weapons on the offensive front with Kupp and Robert Woods and those guys. And then, of course, you have Aaron Darnold anchoring that defense. It could be a very long day. And sadly, Jared Goff could be a moving target for that Rams defense on Sunday, Loro and B. But man, it's going to be cool, cool to see these two former, guys who were in different places last year playing each other. But at the same time, though, I do feel bad for Dan Campbell and the Lions, though, because, man, they've had a couple of tough ones on the chin, and then that heartbreaker against the Vikings about a week or so ago, too.
I also want to add, Kellen, that the Lions, they're showing a lot of effort in these games. It's not like how Matt Patricia's coached the team. Matt Patricia threw this team out of the doormat and just did not even care, Kellen.
And the fact, though, too, that we talked about last season about how the players on their bye week threw a party. They were smoking cigars and drinking beer, and they were on the, like on Lake Michigan or wherever they were on their bye week because, hey, we don't have to listen to coach for a change. Thank goodness. We can go and be ourselves and hang out. And certainly, it's been rough for the Lions. And I think James is right, though. Then after he had the emotional press conference, he threw Jared Goff under the bus. So the Lions, man, they are a big-time wreck right now, sadly, at this point in time.
Yeah, and then, Brandon, do you think the Lions are a big-time wreck, like Kellen said?
And then sadly, they've been, like Loro, you said, I mean, they've been actually in these games. I mean, they could easily be 500, 4-2, sad to say, maybe 5-1. They should have beat the Vikings. I ain't gonna lie about that. That was a lucky victory for Minnesota. But I'm gonna watch this game, but I think Stafford's just gonna light them up. And if I was the offensive coordinator, I would just let Stafford just call whatever play he wants just to kind of take it to him. But yeah, this game ain't gonna be close. And like James said, the coach threw Goff under the bus. So what kind of locker room is that going to bring out? I mean, and what's the team going to react to that? What's Goff going to do? It's not good when your coach comes and throws you under the bus like that. But yeah, I think the Lions are going to be hurting. Like Colin said, Goff's probably going to be a moving target. I would be shocked if he's even in the game in the second half. Either getting pulled or getting hurt because he's going to get lit up.
Yeah, he is going to get lit up. James Gonzalez also wanted to point out that I'm actually out on Tua. Miami should trade for Watson. Half of the locker room in training camp doesn't believe in Tua. and I feel like that Tua is the guy going forward here. Anyways, now let's talk about the late. Let's talk about Sunday night football. I mean, that is going to be battle of teams that have losing records here between the Colts and Isaiah's 49ers. So, Kellen, do you think the Niners will win this game? Because if the Niners lose, you're probably going to be making fun of Isaiah.
We'll see what happens, but certainly, two teams right now who are not at their best, and we've a lot of the talk tonight. In Low Row has been injuries, and here, Carson Wentz has had his share of injuries, and Jimmy Garoppolo, fellas, he just cannot find a way to stay healthy. He just cannot find a way to stay healthy, and like I said, though, Chicago and San Francisco. And even the Patriots, they're all in the same boat. They had a veteran quarterback either released or injured, and now the young guys have to learn on the fly. Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trey Lance is doing the same exact thing right now up in Santa Clara with the Niners right now. And, San Francisco, I think, just has way too many problems right now. The offensive line has not gotten any better. Their defense can only do so much. They kept them in the game last week, though, from what I can recall seeing. But then the quarterback play is still a big time question mark. Because again, can Trey Lance pan out from coming from North Dakota State? I think he can, like Carson Wentz did, and then Carson Wentz, him and his injury problem. So I mean, we'll see how things go, Laurel and B. But I'm expecting at this rate, probably a very low scoring game. It may come down to the kickers winning this game at Levi's on Sunday.
And Big B, do you think that it might come down to a defensive stop here for the Niners and the Colts?
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I'll start it right now by saying Isaiah loses again. I think the Colts are going to win. I don't trust anything San Fran wise right now, but if Wentz stays healthy, it can move around. I think San Fran is going to be in for a long night trying to contain the Colts.
And then when the Texans play the Cardinals, guys, J.J. Watt and DeAndre Hopkins are going to be going head-to-head with the Houston Texans. Kellen, do you think that the Cardinals are going to win this game and blow out the Texans for J.J. Watt and for DeAndre Hopkins?
I do think so. I mean, especially with how Arizona has been off to this great start. Is it a fluke? Is it this? Is it that? Hey, they're 6-0. And they just got better, adding Zach Ertz. Yeah, he may not be the same Zach Ertz of old in his prime with the Eagles.
He doesn't need to be.
But exactly, he doesn't need to be. He's probably like, second, third option on that depth chart right now for Cliff Kingsbury's team right now. 6-0 start. But I think, though, that J.J. Watt said it best, that he kind of felt like it wasn't the same Texans when he left there. And that Houston, total disarray. Tyrod Taylor getting hurt is one thing. Davis Mills having to be the quarterback right now for Houston and stuff like that. And obviously, Deshaun Watson not being there. Like I said, his baggage and issues off the field was one thing. I don't see anyone slowing down Arizona, especially I don't see Houston slowing them down coming up on Sunday. So we'll see how things go. But I got Arizona in that game for sure.
Yeah, I got Arizona in that game for sure. I mean, Big B, I think Arizona's going to win this game, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, Arizona's going to win this, and I'm going to go out on a bold prediction here and say J.J. Watts is going to score an offensive touchdown.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
That would be.
Just to kind of like,
rub it in a little
bit more in the heart of Texas fans.
Yep.
All right, now we'll talk about a little bit of Monday Night Football on this show. So it was supposed to be Russell Wilson versus Jameis Winston. So, Kellen, do you think the Seahawks can get this win against the Saints right now?
Man, I don't know. I mean, Russell Wilson, I kind of feel like he's in a way sadly going down on a decline. I think, his injury now is not the best time. Can Geno Smith kind of in a way find, his college days in him from his days, I believe, at West Virginia? I don't know, though, against New Orleans. I know that Taysom Hill is not going to be their Swiss Army knife. I think he got hurt their last game, though. But I think, though, that Jameis Winston, I mean, I don't know here. I mean, this game could be, a knockout, drag-out game like that SNF game between the Colts and the Niners, though. But certainly without Russell Wilson, You take him away. I don't know how effective Seattle is, regardless of what side of the ball he plays on. His presence alone and that being taken away from Seattle, I think it's a little hairy. I might go New Orleans in a squeaker on Monday night. We'll see how it goes.
And what about you, Big B?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a squeaker. Like Colin said, with Wilson out of there, the locker room changed a little. I mean, granted he's there, but on the field and stuff, and lead being the man in charge. I mean, Geno Smith, I admitted 2 weeks ago I didn't know the guy was still in the league, so that kind of shocked me. I mean, he does have two decent weapons on both sides. If they can possibly get a running game going, it's going to be a close one. I mean, we don't know what kind of game from Watson we're going to get. We could get the week 1 Watson or if we get week 2 Watson. I mean, we don't know. But I got Seattle squeaking it out. Probably some kind of last-second touchdown, I think.
All right, James Gonzalez said something. He says, Jameis versus Geno Smith is unwatchable. Callan, could you agree on that?
Sadly, if this was Breeze and Wilson, I'd be tuning in, in. But at the same time, I don't think I can, sadly.
I would be watching the Peyton Manning and Eli Manning broadcast for this game.
That's a good idea, now that I think about it.
I want to watch that instead of the Steve Levy broadcast.
Yeah. But if it was like 2 rookie quarterbacks replacing Drew Brees and Russell Wilson, it'd probably be watchable in that sense to see how well they do to lead their teams. But
not two guys who are over the hill right now.
Yeah, exactly. So
before we talk about some NBA games, the headline, two headlines of the day. Let's start with the first headline of the day, is that the Ben Simmons drama is continuing right now. And Callan, can you explain to the audience, do you think you could see, is there a chance that you still see Ben Simmons play this season?
I don't. I think that sadly, Laura, with what has come out from the press in Philadelphia, NBA beat writers and NBA sources, it's not great. I read a very damning revelation, fellas, about a week or so ago from NBC Sports saying that Ben Simmons tried to fake exposure to COVID to dodge playing in Game 7 versus Atlanta. And I remember that me, Alcorn, and Sammy Sharp were on Wild Sports Talk like the day after they lost Game 7 to Atlanta. And we all agreed that when you saw Ben Simmons pass up the wide open dunk to pass the ball, that to all of us was like, that was where he drew the line of sand and said, I'm quitting on this organization. And certainly I think, though, that he has become, James, I think said it right, though, fellas, he's become a cancer. He's become a player that I can't stand having on my team. I just cannot stand a guy. And this goes back to my time playing high school baseball. We literally, on day 1, fellas, we made it clear. This is a team effort. This is a us, we, ourselves mentality. We cannot have, nor will we tolerate me, myself, and I egos on this roster. If you're going to be one of those guys, pack your crap up and get off this field. And especially, guys, team chemistry is a real thing in team sports. Hence why it's called team sports for a reason.
Yep.
But especially, though, guys, with how this is unraveled over the past week, leading up to opening night, with Joel Embiid saying, hey, man, I'm not a babysitter. It's not my job to babysit this guy. Doc Rivers telling him, get out of here, throwing him to the curb and stuff like that, suspended for the opening game because of conduct detrimental to the team. I could see that suspension, guys, growing and growing and growing as this season progresses. And I think Daryl Morey even said it right, guys. And I know I said last season that he deserves some credit, though, for how he built the team, though. He gets more credit, I think, though, for telling Ben Simmons, look, man, this could go on for 4 years. You could literally stay, I literally have the power to not trade you. I don't have to fulfill your obligation or fulfill your wish list of trading you to Golden State or to the Lakers or to Phoenix or to some other team. I don't have to listen to your demands or commands. You can hold me hostage all you want, Mr. Simmons, but legally you are obligated for the next 4 years to play for the Philadelphia 76ers basketball team, and I don't have to trade you. This could be, I think he said it could be a 4-year saga. And fellas, I could really honestly see this going on. And I could see this, conduct detrimental to the team suspension progressing on as more time goes on. Yeah, he could probably get fined by the team. But also I think it's great though seeing a front office not caving and not, fulfilling the demands of a player. Houston, I think Houston should have taken notes last season about trading James Harden away. They could have legally, they could have told him, hey, you're contracted to play in Houston for the next 3 years. We do not have to fulfill your demands. You can develop Stockholm Syndrome all you want, dude, but we do not have to fulfill your obligations to be dealt away from our organization. And certainly I think more so, guys, that it's become a bigger distraction in the past week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, because of the bombshell reports of, him getting tossed out of practice by Doc Rivers, Joel Embiid throwing him under the bus, Jason Kelce of the Eagles throwing him under the bus today. So it's like not just his own teammates, guys. Now it's kind of in a way spiraling out of control to the point of where it's now fellow Philadelphia athletes are now saying, if you just played the game, man, none of this would happen. But guys, it's going to be a long soap opera. And I applaud Daryl Morey for not caving into fulfilling a star player's obligation to be dealt away from that team.
Absolutely. I think this is going to be a situation that's going to be monitored going forward here. So, Big B, do you think you'll see Ben Simmons on the floor this season?
If we do, it'll be not with the Sixers. And I'm a Colin. I mean, I'm glad, they're sticking to their guns and be like, hey, you're obligated to play here. We're not trading you. Finally a team that front office that steps up in any sport and does a cave for these players. But yeah, it's going to be a long drawn out season for him, for the Sixers, for NBA, for the sports world. Because that's one thing we're going to hear quite a bit, probably once or twice a week. Where's Simmons going? Is he going to play? Is he not? But yeah, getting thrown out of practice before the opener. I want to say, I thought I heard that some of his teammates had to escort him out of there too after Doc Rivers threw him out. But yeah, I'm glad that they're sticking to their guns and not giving in. So, but I don't think we're going to see him play.
And the fact, though, that he could literally stand there stone-faced during practice and not show any emotion and look like he was bored out of his mind, it's just, I think, adding on to this, I think, very stupid dilemma that the Sixers are facing. But like I said, though, all the props go to Daryl Morey and the front office for not getting into the demands of this team. But also, I do feel bad for Sixers fans. Here, guys, this organization, had to endure, the post-AI era and then the tanking and, trust the process. Dun, 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 dun. It ain't bad. 9-win seasons, 10-win seasons, getting Simmons and Embiid and, building something nice. I said last year that they were building something great with these two. But now, of course, it's just sadly broken into pieces because of Ben Simmons. And as James said, all he has to do is just put his ego aside and maybe develop a three-point shot and go from there. And I think as well, though, guys, real quick, before I give it back to Loro, going back to what John Alcorn, Sammy Sharp, and myself said after they lost to Atlanta in Game 7, we all, I think, said it right, though, is that mainly, the ego's one thing, but also with teams living and dying by the three-point ball, though, is that when Doc Rivers came out after the game and said, I don't believe that Ben Simmons can be a starting guard on a championship caliber team.
Yep.
I know a lot of our fans that wrote in saying, oh, this is a diss against the star player. Maybe in people's minds, but as me being a former athlete, I think Brandon yourself as well, is that I take that as, I see that comment, you are not capable of being a star player or or a starting player on a title contending team or title caliber team. I don't see that as a diss. That is Doc Rivers' tough love way of saying, you can do it. You just got to go out there and work at it. Take those hours in the gym,
practice.
On track. That's what it is. I know we're kind of in a way right now in sports about, people, all the thing are guilty of it, though, of reading too much into the fine print of the newspaper or of the article and, trying to find everything, so microscopically there with a magnifying glass of like, what's he really saying? Oh my goodness, he doesn't think that Ben Simmons can be a a star player. No. Don't read so far into the Times New Roman font of the newspaper or the article, folks, or the Arial Narrow or the Helvetica font. Stop that. Seeing that from Doc Rivers is like, he can do it. He's got to put the work in and get better at it.
Yep.
Simple as that.
No, I agree on that take, Colin. I think it was, something like you said. All coaches do that. They'll come out and say, "Hey, I don't think so and so can play with us." More or less to make them go out and practice and show it. So. But yeah, I think Doc Rivers said it the best. Though I don't think he could be a star player and get that jump shot going and then come talk to me. I guess is where we're going.
Case in point, just a little slither of my baseball playing career. I think my sophomore year in high school, I went from playing lower level ball all the way to varsity, and I had a game over the winter. I think where like a tune-up game. I made 3 errors in the field and struck out 3 times and left many guys in scoring position. And I got pulled aside during practice one day or after a practice because I kind of felt like I was kind of being pinned the scapegoat for I lost this game. And the head coach said it right. He said, "Dude, look, team effort, yes, but we know you're capable of playing better than what you showed on Saturday. Get back, kind of in a way, we didn't mean to throw you under the bus, though, after the game was over, but we know you're capable of playing better. So get back out there and work at it." And literally, like the next day, it was, 5 buckets of ground balls during, during practice, extra swings in the cage, just more reps. And again, that's what I would wish with Ben Simmons is, quit reading so far deep, quit looking through the timelines, through the IG comments and your Snapchat mentions and reading through all the newspaper articles. Just get out there and put the work in and get yourself better. And above all else, stop making this a damn soap opera as well. But Loro, back over to you, my man. What do you got?
All right. So we got 6 schools to join the American Athletic Conference. So tell us, Callan, who are these schools?
Now, not necessarily the schools, though, Loro, but certainly I think, though, fellas, is that we are entering, I think, big-time uncharted territory right now in college athletics. And I know I may have been kind of in a way on my high horse because it's like, oh, this won't affect, where I work and stuff like that. And maybe it does eventually affect it. But I do think, though, that with the bombshell that came out, though, guys, of Oklahoma and Texas leading the Big 12 for the SEC, I think this has just opened up a massive can of worms in both a good way and maybe a bad way. Because obviously we know, of course, that, television, that TV and streaming providers rule the roost right now with all live sporting events, college, pros, you name it. And I think right now, though, I just think that right now more conferences are just trying their best to add more fruit to the trees. Again, with the AAC adding 6 schools to grow their league to, I think, 14 or 15 schools, plus Navy during football season and stuff like that. Then, of course, the SEC, the Big 12 is adding schools in. I believe that the American actually had targeted, I think they also targeted 4 Mountain West schools, including San Diego State, Boise State. I think Air Force and Colorado State were also a part of that. But I think, though, this is just going to be a thing, though, guys, that it's going to be like this domino effect where this is going to keep going on because of money, because of television revenue. And more so, I think that might be, though, the only downfall, I think, though, for some of these conferences that are, in fact, growing so fast is there enough television revenue to go around, though? I think that Adam is right, though, guys, that the college football playoffs are still broken. I fellas have said for the longest time, there is never going to be a squeaky clean, perfect way to do a postseason, mainly in college football. College basketball has been the great, measuring stick for the past, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50 plus years, for example. I do believe I read a story, I think 2 weeks ago, roughly, that the competition committee voted, I believe they voted to begin to expand the women's basketball tournament to go to 68 teams like the men have been. Thank goodness at long last with that. But that there is never going to be a squeaky clean football playoff in college football because bias is one thing, as Adam also wrote in, because of the SEC. but that as teams keep moving around, though, guys, I just don't know, though, how much longer that it's going to be right. I've thought about maybe an 8-team playoff, maybe 10 at most, but I would probably say 4, maybe 6. I would cap it at 8 because I still think that you should work in all of your big games. The Rose Bowl, I know it shifts every year among, it basically circles around. They rotate it every year, but I really feel like they'll let the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Cotton Bowl. I think I'm forgetting a couple of basically the New Year's Six have got to be and could be your best selling point for a expanded college football playoff. I, for one, just don't think, though, that there's ever going to be a time, though, where we're all going to agree upon a college football playoff. Again, I don't watch a lot of football, college or pro, because I don't really find football interesting, sadly. I've just been that way my entire life, though. I'm a very casual viewer because I work in so many other college athletic events, though, that I find more interesting. Not because I'm working the game, though, but I find the games more interesting. But I just personally don't feel like, though, Loro and Brandon, that there is going to be a squeaky clean, perfect win percentage, wash the hands. I just don't think there's going to be a perfect system where everybody's going to agree upon, because there's going to be some school out there like Central Florida, like Cincinnati, like Isaiah's beloved BYU Cougars, who may go unbeaten, and they're not going to get in because they're not in the SEC. They're not in, the Big 12, the Big 10, or the ACC, because it's so biased against those schools. Anyhow, you can keep moving conferences, but I just don't think it's going to work, though, and I don't think, though, that anyone's going to budge, though, on expanding this field anytime soon. But I certainly think, though, that as more puzzle pieces move, though, I really hope, though, these schools, though, that they stick with it. Because I think the last thing, guys, we want to see, though, for example, is OU and Texas leave and go to the SEC, and they keep getting plastered by Bama and Georgia and by, schools like that. And then they come crying back to the Big 12, and the Big 12 wouldn't be there if they would have left or folded the conference. So that is my biggest concern, though, more so with college football, is that with all the moving going around, though, once these schools really see, though, that their talent is here and the SEC is here, then they're going to want to go back with the tail between their legs back to the conference they were originally in. But I don't think it's going to be. I hope it works. I just don't see it happening, sadly, fellas. I really don't.
All right, folks. So with that being said, before we get to game balls and bloopers of the week and all that, so let's talk about some NBA basketball.
Real quick, I wanted to see if Brandon had any thoughts about the college football, about things going on here. Brandon, what do you have for this, real quick?
It's broken. I think we're gonna come down to we're gonna have 4 mega conferences with all these powerhouse teams, and they're going to come up with some kind of NFL-style playoff out of those 4. But right now, I mean, Ace said it, the playoff system's broken. It's always, 3 of those same 4 teams every year, one squeaks in. And like you said, other teams can go undefeated, but they won't even get a sniff of the playoffs. But yeah, I believe we're going to see like 4 major conferences, and then they're going to come up with some kind of playoff system down the road here.
I agree.
All right, so now let's talk about some NBA games as the NBA is back. Let's start with talking about Tuesday's games with the Lakers and the Warriors. So I thought that the Lakers looked great in the first 3 quarters, but in the fourth quarter, they just looked flat. So, Callan, what did you think about that Lakers game against the Nets, but also against the Warriors, and then the Bucks win over the Brooklyn Nets and all that?
Well, for one thing, those Milwaukee Bucks rings are amazingly awesome, with how they are both a ring and a nice little swag chain piece, basically, and stuff like that. I just want to see if I can find this video. I don't think we have it anymore, sadly. But anyway, obviously, I have my concerns with the Lakers. I really have a lot of, I think, probably legitimate concerns, because the Lakers, I don't like how this roster is constructed. I really don't. And it may look great on paper, fellas, but holy Toledo, I just do not like how, in fact, that this Lakers team is going to look, though. And I do have my concerns because I just don't see though how all these aging veterans are going to be able to make it through a full 82 game season schedule. Again, you cannot be like the Clippers and load manage your way to the NBA finals, as we saw in the bubble fellas in 2020 when they got beat by the Nuggets. And certainly it looked great though in 3 quarters, but Loro, my main concern though, other than the roster age though, is crunch time. The last 6 minutes of the game, which I believe the NBA defines as crunch time, because though that every guy on the floor for the Lakers is going to want the ball in their hands though, and there's one ball to go around 5 bodies. So it may look great though, but Loro, I've been very concerned though. This team reminds me way too much of the 12-13 Lakers who had Kobe, God bless his soul, but they had Gasol, they got Dwight, and they got Steve Nash. And we saw what happened to that ball club though when they did not gel well because Dwight and Kobe had their feud and Gasol was hurt. Steve Nash got hurt game 2 in Portland. Kobe basically had to go back to 04-05 Bryant and carry the guys of like Smush Parker and Chris Mim to the playoffs that year when they nearly beat the Suns, though. So I'm very concerned. I think it's legitimate concern, though. I know it's one game. I shouldn't lose my mind, though. But just remembering about the past, though, 04-05, 12-13, I think if you're a Laker fan, if you were a Laker fan, you are definitely concerned about the Lakers. And on the flip side, though, with the Bucks and Nets game, Isaiah, this is for you, buddy. I mean, I've said Bucks in 6 for a while. I'm going to stay with it. Just a reminder who won the NBA title over the Suns last year. But with Milwaukee, though, certainly, I know they got crushed tonight, though, in Miami. But I think, though, them beating Brooklyn on ring night, and usually, guys, ring night and banner night is usually a pretty distracting game, though, for the team because you're kind of coming off that championship high, though. I think, though, it was a great statement victory to anyone out there, like Lee Young, like anyone who watched that series and that they proved, hey, this was no fluke beating the Nets last season in the postseason. Again, you can have Durant, you can have Harden, you can have Blake Griffin, you can have all these guys in the super team, though. But right now, they have not beaten the Nets can't, have not beaten the Bucks since, early in that last playoff round, though. So certainly great opening up action on Tuesday, but the Lakers, I'm very concerned about that roster and about late in games. And also Milwaukee, it's still Bucks in 6. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's been that way, that's for sure. So, Big B, what are your thoughts on the Lakers' first game, though?
I hope they all got their AARP card because that's where they're heading to. If this was
read your mind there, Mr. Herrera.
Yeah, I know, I saw that. Yeah, I mean, if this was 10 years ago, these guys were together, they'd be dangerous. I mean, I don't think we can argue that. But it's 2021 going into 2022. Yeah, I'm gonna call it. I mean, this roster is going to be shaky. I mean, there's one ball. Everybody wants it. Everybody wants to be the star. I think there was a comment there from Adam that said Westbrook doesn't fit in. I don't think he does either. I'm gonna call it. I don't like the roster how it's built. I think it's going to be shaky. Honestly, it wouldn't shock me if they don't make the playoffs this year. But for the Bucks, ring night. Hey, congrats to them. Bucks in 6. They're gonna work towards repeating, and I think they can do it. So, shout out to the Bucks, and I hope they make another run.
Mate, we'll have to wait and see on that, folks. So let's talk about a couple of games that happened Wednesday and Thursday. So the Celtics beat the Knicks 134-138, and then the Denver Nuggets beat the Phoenix Suns 110-98. Callan, what are your thoughts on those 2 games from ESPN last night? And then after that, then we're going to talk about today's the Thursday games on TNT.
My goodness, that Boston-New York game was pure insanity. I was watching the stat feed. I was doing some stuff for work, but man, oh man, here the Knicks had a 11-point lead, I think, late in this ball game, and they literally just gave the Celtics every chance to come back in it. And then I think Jaylen Brown heaves up that 3 after Evan Fournier missed a potential game-winning basket or like game-stealing basket. And he throws in the 3 to tie the game at 1, whatever it was. You go to the first overtime, and teams had chances to win the game before the buzzer sounded, and Boston, missed their shot, and then the Knicks finally put the game away. But fellas, I mean, that game was just just insanity, pure insanity. And props to the Knicks for winning that ball game, though. But they really should have won that game, though, in regulation time. Again, you can't afford to make mistakes like that and blow a lead that incrementally and expect to go deep in the season. Then for the Nuggets, though, good little revenge game. But again, for the Suns, though, even last night, though, kind of in a way, coming off that finals high, though, conference title, first time getting back to the finals since 1993 and stuff like that, though. But certainly, I do think that in a way, though, the Suns, I think, have that distraction right now of DeAndre Ayton in that contract, where, again, Robert Sarver had kind of already said, we're not doing this right now at this point in time. So we'll see how things go right now with the Suns. I think they're going to be fine, though, but certainly I think, though, for Denver, great way for them to bounce back and punch him back after that sweep in round 2 last season.
And what are your thoughts on yesterday's NBA games before we talk about Thursday's games?
Hey, NBA's back. I'm not a big follower of it, but going into overtime, like Colin said, that team, each team could have had a chance to win it. You don't, in any sport, you don't give another team a chance to claw back into it and then make it like that. But yeah, then Denver coming out and taking care of the Suns. I'm a little disappointed that you didn't throw my Wolves in there, because they're sitting at top right now, 1-0. This might be the only time I get to sit here and brag about the Wolves being undefeated. So, but yeah, it was against Houston. I know they're kind of a bombshell right now, but I think the Wolves are going to surprise some teams. I think.
Give it time.
Yeah, give it time, though. So now let's talk about the TNT games Thursday. Obviously, today on the Thursday slate, the Milwaukee Bucks got blown out by the upstart Miami Heat. But today, Luka Doncic and Trae Young went head-to-head, and the Atlanta Hawks got a 113-87 win over the Dallas Mavericks in Jason Kidd's first game as the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks. And, however, the LA Clippers came this close to beating the Golden State Warriors. And all I got to say is, this is for you, Clipper Daryl. I can't hear you. And I want to laugh at Clipper fans because they lost to the Warriors by 2 points. So, Kellen, what are your thoughts on both of those games today on TNT?
I kind of feel like Dallas is in trouble. Jason Kidd, he's already flamed out twice in his coaching career. And I would hate to see it happen for a third time, especially though when he's a Maverick. He played down there in Dallas, and they brought a lot of the old guys back. I know I'm like the biggest person offended by seeing former players become members of the front office or coaches or whatnot. But that Luka and Porzingis, I think they can be special. But also I think though that man, oh man, them going down there getting clobbered by Atlanta and by Trae Young though. Not a good start to the season. Certainly, I think, though, there's a pretty big microscope, I think, on Jason Kidd because this is his third shot at coaching a team in the NBA. And is it going to pan out? I don't know if this is going to pan out, fellas. And I would hate to see him get canned midway through the season or whatnot. But, I do think, though, that Luka and Porzingis can be special. But now, though, with Kidd being the head coach, I'm not too fully sure about this. With Atlanta, though, I'm very glad, though, that they gave Nate McMillan the coaching reins after he led that team as the interim coach to the postseason last season as well, though. Trae Young is still a beast out there for Atlanta. And then with the Clippers and Warriors, Steph Curry is absolutely inhumane. And he's fun to watch. I mean, he may play for Golden State, though, but I know he just, throws it up there and wins, and makes the three. I would probably trust him at the fair to win me a jersey if he was, shooting the ball like that at the fairgrounds. But I mean, that's just how the game's being played right now. And I think, and he's still, he's slippery. It's hard to really guard him, I think, and get him away from a spot though, because literally, I mean, this guy literally hits baskets, guys, from like the concourse of Chase Center or from the bench area. I mean, it's just insane seeing how he can shoot the ball so well. And, without Klay Thompson, he is the Warriors right now at this rate till Klay is back healthy, hopefully next season.
Yeah. And then And then, Brandon, what are your thoughts on that on the Mavs and Hawks game, and then the Clippers and Warriors?
Yeah, I think Colin nailed it right. I think the Mavs right now are kind of going to be shaky. I guess time will tell. I don't think Kidd will get fired mid-season. I think they're going to give him a couple of years to figure it out. Especially, I mean, unless they really tank it this year. But I think Kidd's going to be there for a little bit. Yeah, Curry. What can you say? I mean, the guy is throwing up shots like he's a player for the Harlem Globetrotters or out playing schoolyard basketball. I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to play him in horse, kind of see what kind of crazy shots he would come up with. But, we got, a couple teams got 2 games in. Everybody's got 1 game in. So start of the season, we'll see how it plays out with those guys.
All right. So now, folks, let's talk about NBA Friday. Tomorrow, we got the Brooklyn Nets taking on the Philadelphia 76ers, and then the Lakers take on the Suns. My thoughts on these 2 games, I think that the Brooklyn Nets will need this win. I think they're going to beat the Philadelphia 76ers. And for the Lakers, I think they're going to beat the Phoenix Suns. So, Callan, can you give me your takes on those 2 games tomorrow?
Brooklyn, I think, is going to bounce back from that loss in Milwaukee because, again, the Sixers are in such total dysfunction right now with Ben Simmons, and again, cancerous player is a distraction right now, sadly, at this rate and at this point in time. So I got Brooklyn in that game. I hope the Lakers do bounce back. But again, the Suns, I think, are out to prove that, like the Bucks, we were not a fluke last season and that we're not going to, be punched in the mouth again, or whatnot. But again, for the Lakers' sake, though, the fourth quarter is going to be obviously where they win and lose games, though. Because, again, they can play great for 3 quarters, but it's a 4-quarter game. And I would be very concerned, again, if this game is close and tight in the final 6 minutes of the game, though, where, again, I think they tense up and that, the ball is not in the right guy's hand and stuff like that. So I want to see the Lakers at least get a dub tomorrow, but I would not be one bit surprised, though, if the Suns came out and punched the Lakers again in the mouth squarely to send them to 0-2 on the season.
And what about you, Big B? What do you think about those 2 games tomorrow on ESPN?
For me, I think I really hope the Lakers take an L. I think if it's close, I think the Suns are going to take care of them. And then you said the Nets, right? I think they're going to bounce back, and I think they're going to get that W. Like we said, the 76ers are kind of in a nutshell right now. So I think Nets and Suns are going to both win tomorrow.
Definitely agree.
All right, folks. So it has been a great show. And, Callan, it's great to have you back for a night. So, folks, it is time for final thoughts. So we're going to find that button right now, and we'll play the final thoughts buzzer.
I think we found it. I think we're good.
Yeah.
All right. So my final thoughts is that, Callan, good to have you back on here. And if your schedule lights up, you're going to I can't wait to host the co-host the night shift with you when you return.
As soon as it lightens up, it won't be for a while, but it's going to be for a bit. But thanks for having me on, filling in for the cast and crew here of MI6, and also again, good to see Big B as well joining us, and keep supporting MI6 and Coast to Coast, folks. I know we're kind of in a way right now over here, kind of hit and miss right now because all of us are kind of getting back to our lives, though, of either work or being able to hang out with friends and family again and stuff of that caliber. So thanks for supporting both of our networks, and hey, keep tuning in and keep writing in. Again, thanks to James and Christy and Adam and all the loyal viewers for tuning in. And again, keep supporting us. I know that right now, MI6, we're not really here every day like we usually are, though. But, as time goes on, though, we will be back here, and I'll be back as soon as I can get more time on my side here. Simple as that.
And what about you, Big B? What are your final thoughts?
No, I'm glad to hop on and help out when I can. This partnership between MI6 and Coast to Coast is amazing, and it gives us a chance to work both shows and help out when we can. It's, brotherly love around here. So, Colin, I'm glad to see you back. You joined me last night for the show on Coast to Coast, and that was a blast. I mean, we don't have to go into it, but I love chatting with all you guys. I mean, it's a blast to get on some of these shows.
And yes, the Vancouver Blues beat Chicago 4-1. I had to say,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Called that
Yeah.
the Vancouver Blues. So, anyways, that's going to do it for the night shift. Tune into the night shift next Thursday night after Thursday Night Football. Extra Point will be happening on Sunday after Sunday Night Football. And then Wild Sports Talk will be back again on Monday. So, for Callan, for Big B, and our producer, Stephen Wang, Loro signing off for now. Have a great rest of your night, everybody.